It's been a while since I reacted to any Anna Soft's videos, but this time, this story should come as no surprise to everybody because I've seen so many teenagers go from being normal to just straight up crazy thanks to social media. I think we all know that deep down TikTok is one of those platforms that can turn anybody into a freak in terms of being feminist, doing what you want to do without dealing with the consequences, without being held accountable for your own actions of what you post online. But at the same time, no matter what you post and no matter what you say, there are people on the internet that will agree with what you say, even though some of the stuff you say is stupid. With somebody like me that tells you the truth and nothing but the truth, you get offended, you get mad, you get triggered over something that I said. And it's obvious to me that we live in this generation where no matter what you say, they will never, ever agree with what you say. They're going to always be in this denial phase of believing in what they say, that it's okay for them to do. Make it make sense.
This is 18-year-old Helen Hastings. When they became besties with a TikTok famous cosplayer named Snow the Salt Queen, their mother and friends had their doubts. But they wanted Helen to be happy and supported Helen's newfound friendship. Sadly, Helen would never...
The makeup, the black tear, whatever you call it, it tells me everything I need to know about a woman who dresses like that. If their mindset is like that, don't fuck with them. I'm just saying.
Instead, their new best friend took their life. Then, she continued to gain TikTok fame. How was this possible? And why did Snow unalive Helen? We'll explore these questions and many more in today's video. In January 2021, Helen Hastings was getting ready for a fresh start in life and a future filled with opportunities, dreams, and friends. They had been studying neuroscience, psychology, and art at Oberlin College, an hour outside Cleveland, Ohio. On weekends, they would play Dungeons and Dragons or listen to the podcast My Brother, and Me. Helen's teenage years had been tough, but they were happier now, at the age of 18. Their Siberian therapy cat Willa was keeping them company at college, and they were making new close friends who really seemed to cherish Helen. This is what made the following incident truly shocking. In the early hours of Sunday, January 17th, 2021, Helen's parents, Susan and Philip, received a phone call. Their daughter was in the hospital.
This is probably every parent's worst nightmare of getting that phone call from their child being killed or hit by a car because of one psychotic friend who they thought that were good to them, that were good for them, but instead it turned out to be a complete opposite when you think about it. And I think that's the thing nowadays, that we're also dealing with a bunch of Gen Zs, and the new generation have been nothing but corrupt thanks to social media, of corrupting their minds into thinking that staying in the fantasy land and being delusional is the way to do it. And they're always chasing bad boys. Society of today in general, because I've seen countless women on social media talking about how they love bad boys, they love thugs and criminals instead of the good guy. Because nowadays, being a good guy is never enough for them. So it is what it is.
The situation was dire. Helen was on life support, not because their life could be saved, but because they'd signed an organ donor card. The hospital was waiting to find a recipient for their organs. Susan said about the MRI scan of her daughter's brain, that was it. There was just not much there. As Helen's parents were trying to come to terms with the reality, a couple of officers told them what had happened that night. Helen's best friend, Mary Ann Oliver Snow, had pulled the trigger. Helen's family couldn't believe it. Helen had just moved in with Mary Ann. It made no sense. Also, Helen had not been raised with weapons in the house. They would have stayed away from gun enthusiasts. What's more, just weeks before, Philip had asked Helen if Snow and their friends kept any weapons inside the house. Helen had said no, though the witness statements later revealed that this was not the first time Marianne or their housemates had played with a gun. What really led to Helen's
Really?
death? The hospital wanted the family to wait 3 days to find organ recipients. Susan said they could
What?
wait.
You want them to wait 3 days for a new organs? All because she got shot and that's been put on life support? First of all, this doesn't make any sense because I don't believe in people carrying and buying a gun in the house just so they can play with it. And then moments later, they're gonna end up accidentally pull the trigger and accidentally kill somebody. What's even worse is that it seems like the hospital is pretty much hiding something. If it's nothing there, then how did she get shot? I don't get it.
Family could bear. I was never going to see her again. I wanted to just hold her hand. Susan sat by Helen's bedside for 2 days, singing them Beatles songs and telling them how much she loved them. Helen was taken off of life support and pronounced dead at 5:18 p.m. on January 19th.
Oh, that's rough.
Helen Rose Hastings was the only daughter of Philip Hastings and Susan
Wow.
Rosenberg,
The
born
only
and
child.
raised in Houston, Texas. Philip and Susan were highly successful biologists working at Baylor College of Medicine. Philip had been married twice before and had 4 sons from his previous marriages. Susan
Dang,
was
4
in
sons?
her 40s and Philip was in his 60s. However, Helen's parents put their whole energy into spending time with Helen and helping
It's crazy
them
though,
develop
but it
into
is
a
what it is.
smart,
They're both adults, but
independent
still.
adult.
4
As a
sons from
toddler,
previous
Helen was already
relationships.
very smart, speaking in full sentences by the time they were just 18 months old. Their childhood was a whirlwind of extracurricular activities, swimming, theater, chorus, rock band camp, and robotics.
So what I'm not understanding from this situation is that if their childhood was kind of rough, especially during their teenage years, why didn't the parents take them to church to learn about Jesus and accepting God in their lives so they can have a better understanding of looking life differently instead of getting into the wrong situations with the wrong crowds, with the wrong friends, with the wrong people? I mean, you would think that the parents would have did better by taking their kids to church to learn about Jesus, to have a better mindset. But it just seems like, they just wanted a life on their own. I mean, if they grown, let them go into their world and deal with their problems their own way, breaking everybody down. But I just think that the parents should have done better by taking them to church or something like that, because if you just allowing them to do what they want to do, something's wrong here.
Said she was a person who was everywhere at the same time, but also very centered and grounded. There was no correlation between the things she was interested in. She seemed like she wanted to know everything. Helen's parents knew that children should be encouraged to explore all their passions, not pushed down a fixed route that embodies their parents' dream. Helen spent their breaks traveling with Susan and Philip on the lecture circuit, going to far-flung places like Norway, Croatia, and Japan. When they were 7, Helen decided their career goal, starting an institute for women scientists in Japan.
That's
Their
good.
future seemed bright, but everything changed when Helen entered middle school, and it was all because they were severely bullied. One of the reasons was
Wow.
their small stature, as they grew to just under 5'1". Why on earth that would be an issue with anyone is
That's
hard
crazy,
to comprehend.
picking on somebody because of
Then
their
Helen
height.
struggled with misophonia. That means they were super sensitive to certain sounds like chewing, coughing, sniffing, or
Oh.
pencil tapping. Of course, their aversion got extreme in school where these sounds were practically everywhere.
I think that's pretty much a
Sadly,
mental
this
issue.
earned them even more bullying. And lastly, around junior high, Helen discovered they were pansexual and wanted to be identified as them. They also started dating another.
What did I tell y'all? You see what happens when you don't teach your kids about God and you don't take them to church to learn right from wrong? This is what happens when your child gets mixed into the wrong crowd in terms of finding out about their sexuality. They got these stupid pronouns for everybody to prefer them as she and them. Like, it's stupid. This is exactly what I was talking about. To keep them on the right path and keep their minds straight, focus on school and education, not fooling around with a bunch of weirdos.
Helen a lot. Helen wanted to keep their relationship a secret, as they were afraid of more bullying, but their girlfriend and classmate outed her gender, orientation, and relationship to everyone they knew. That made Helen less confident and less trusting of others. They developed anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder. Helen would also later be in an emotionally abusive relationship with someone they met online. A traumatic experience that they frequently referenced on social media. Isolated from classmates, Helen sought comfort at cosplay conventions. Cosplay is short for costume role play. It's a chance to escape the real world for a few days, put on your favorite character's costume, and act like them with like-minded people. Helen enjoyed this a lot, especially in the company of their friend Bailey. Bailey said Helen was drawn to the...
I mean, I get it that you want to escape reality, but you want to do cosplay, but at the same time, you want to be in this fantasy world of what you believe in and what you're into, instead of focusing on what's really going on in the world. Once you end up in the wrong crowd, you're going to end up doing the exact same crap as they do. So there is no turning back. There is no fixing it. You made your base and now you have to lay in it. If you get yourself in the wrong crowd, I mean, that'll be a parent's worst nightmare. I mean, call me what you want. I'm speaking the truth. It's crazy that you have a child that is mixed up in situations when you thought you brought them out of that issue, but somehow their situations grow even worse as they got with the wrong people.
From reality. They're not a human, they're this character. For 3 days, they don't have to think about what's going on in the outside world. It's just what's happening in the convention halls. So for Helen, it was almost a therapeutic experience. An opportunity to escape a life that didn't make them happy anymore. They would do Car Cat from Homestruck and Mystery Girl from Steven Universe and post themselves on Instagram and the TikTok precursor Musical.ly. Soon, they would amass a fair number of followers and attract cosplay fans and other cosplayers in Houston. But Susan wasn't so happy about this, especially as most cosplayers were significantly older than Helen. But in the end, Helen's love of this newfound community helped their mom relax.
How?
Helen was in 10th grade when she met Mary Ann Olive Snow, who was 5 years older than her. They also identified as non-binary and were into cosplay. In fact, they were one of the most famous cosplayers in Texas, known online as Yandere Freak, aka Yandere Snow, aka Snow, the Salt Queen. Snow had amassed 1.6 million followers on TikTok, and they were particularly liked for their cosplay of Junko, a character from Danganronpa, a Japanese video game in which teens are locked inside a school with a murderous bear and forced to fight to the death. Junko often oscillates between cute sweetness and wishing to inflict pain and suffering on the entire world. Most cosplayers will tell you there's no connection between reality and the fiction they're embodying.
This is why mental health is rising like crazy, because of stuff like this. Cosplaying, worshiping the devil, doing devil witchcrafts on TikTok, cosplaying in Comic-Con convention centers. It's obvious to me that they knew exactly what they were doing. But the thing is that if your mind is so focused on one character that you try to pretend that you're not to be, obvious to me that something is wrong with you mentally. Because if you don't have that type of mindset to say, okay, what am I doing? Let me cut back to reality. Then it's obvious to me that you're either suffering from trauma or something really bad happened to you growing up for you to be acting like this. And you never got the help that you need and you never went to therapy. This is a red flag for me.
A faint line could be drawn between the two. Their very username, Yonder, is a character trope in Japanese dating sim games, known for being sometimes affectionate and other times well, murderous. Many
Oh,
people
Jesus
who knew
Christ.
Snow said that they took their love for Junko to an unhealthy level. On their Instagram bio, Snow referred to themselves as IRL Junko Enoshima, and they were known to be highly possessive of the character, criticizing anyone else who cosplayed as Junko. Snow also thrived on stirring controversy. One friend, known as Lace, said, "They had this it factor. They were fabulous, very outgoing, but they had a dark
Oh, Lord have
side.
mercy.
They were the type of person that you can't trust. There was something off about them. I did not
I
feel
bet they
they
were,
were a
but
safe
yet
or
you were
sane
friends with
person
them.
to be around." Snow was petty and vengeful. After a breakup, Lace barred Snow from a panel. Snow then reported the 18-plus panel, saying that they'd seen a child in attendance. Things like this were not surprising when you hung out with Snow. Even if you didn't, they still appeared in the latest gossip one way or another. In January 2019, Snow posted a video of themselves as Junko posing provocatively on a gravestone. The post
Are you
earned Snow
serious?
a great deal of backlash on social media, but they loved this. In fact, Snow used this to earn their brand as an edgy cosplayer, leading some to refer to them as
Oh, this is
Graveyard
disgusting.
Junko. Another friend of theirs,
This is
Anne
very
Helen,
disgusting.
said,
Look at this.
"Snow has always been someone who leverages controversies and calls out into public. The way they will wait out the drama and use that notoriety to make themselves even more known and possible." Snow responded with a
So basically, when somebody is trying to hold them accountable, they use that as motivation to keep on doing the stupid stuff. As if they're not listening to what everybody is telling them. But I find it very disrespectful for them to actually post pictures in a gravesite in front of a dead person while they're cosplaying it. What is wrong with these people?
but in fact, they were complaining and insulting the backlashers. Snow was notoriously controversial. They would take real blades at conventions when real weapons were never allowed, or appear covered in real hypodermic needles when impersonating Toga from My Hero Academia. They would also stir actual fights with other people who attempted to play Junko, as if they'd bought all the rights to the character. Several people in
They
Snow's
don't.
circle called them toxic, and yet they had a large circle of cosplayer friends, many of whom shared their home.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
In the summer
This
of
is getting bad.
2020, Helen was spending a lot of time with Snow. They were
Wow,
also getting
So this pretty much happened during the pandemic? Man. These bras need help. They need help real bad. I'm telling you.
a family home, Susan and Philip knew, but they didn't expect Helen to move where they moved. 2 weeks before starting school, Helen moved in with Snow and their friends on the outskirts of Houston. It was a rundown house filled with animal waste and moldy food. It smelled bad, looked bad, and was beyond messy. But Helen really wanted to move away from home. According to their friends, they weren't on the best terms with their parents. Susan, on the other hand, says Helen was, in fact, careful not to get them sick. This was happening amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and both their parents were high risk. Susan was not a fan of Snow or their dilapidated home, but she encouraged her daughter to become an independent adult. She also secretly was hoping that Helen would find a new community of people at Oberlin College and move on from Snow's toxic group.
Yeah.
But Snow wouldn't allow Helen to move on. It wasn't just Susan who had their doubts. Helen's friends, including Bailey, were just as suspicious of Snow. When Bailey visited Helen at their new home, she noticed that Snow and their friends were always intoxicated or at least on one substance.
Wow, living this
Another friend
dangerous
noticed how
lifestyle,
Snow's
drugs and
crew would
alcohol. Of
often
course
switch
they are.
between several identities during their parties and sometimes become violent with each other as a part of a role-playing game. She even wondered whether these people suffered from DID, or dissociative identity disorder, and were masking this as roleplay. Shortly after midnight, on January 17th, 2021, Helen, Snow, and 5 of their friends were drinking vodka, Dr. Pepper, and Coca-Cola at Snow's home. Then they decided to put on the TV show Gotham. Suddenly, Snow
that's
said
even
they had a
worse.
gun, just like Penguin. Snow then unveiled a Glock. According to Snow's testimony, The group of friends would play with the Glock fairly often, as they thought Snow's ex had removed the bullets in the magazine before he left. Usually they'd fool around with it for a bit and put it back in its case, but this time they were extremely drunk. After a few hours of playing with it, one of Snow's housemates asked Snow to pretend to pull the trigger at them. Snow complied, and they were convinced the weapon was unloaded. Just then, Helen said, "Oh, do me." Snow then placed the Glock on the left side of Helen's head and fired. Helen fell to the ground, to the shock and horror of everyone who was watching. Helen's panicked friends ran to get something to stop the bleeding, deciding on a large teddy bear, and Snow ran upstairs to get a towel and called 911. It was a freak accident, the friends told the officers.
No, I don't want no accident. They knew exactly what they were doing.
And still is to this day how exactly the weapon fired in the first place. One of Snow's housemates told the detectives that they saw Snow taking the clip out before they started playing with it. Snow said that they did this so.
Stop the cap. Literally stop the cap. You did not take the bullet out of the gun. You might have thought that you've taken out of it, but you didn't. First of all, you shouldn't be playing with guns, period. Guns were meant to be for protection, not to go and play with and ended up playing with somebody's life. Snow is a terrible person. These people were never right from the begin with. Embracing the devil's witchcrafts, celebrating Satan, doing drugs and alcohol, partying, carrying on. And I see why her mom wanted her away from those people to start a better life, to find new friends and a new community. I mean, if you're gay, then yeah, you could be a part of the LGBT community. But it's this type of community I have a problem with. Y'all know I'm a Christian. I don't mess with devil witchcraft. I don't mess with this kind of stuff. It's not my style. It's not my cup of tea. But it's the fact that she got her life taken away, unfortunately, by some maniac who thought it was okay to play with a dangerous weapon that is not meant to be a toy. If you don't know nothing about guns, don't play with them. Don't touch them. Matter of fact, do some educational things on guns before you decide to put your hands on it.
Clip got back in. Snow also said they did not believe that they put the magazine back in the gun, but they may have done so without thinking about it because they were really, really drunk. Helen's mother believes it was a drunken accident, but disputes one fact, that Helen would offer to play victim in that deadly game. Other people who knew and loved Helen see a darker scenario here. In other words, Snow might not have wanted Helen dead, but her toxic, violent personality would have claimed a victim one day or another.
Oh,
the tragic story could end here, but unfortunately it doesn't. Mary Ann Oliver Snow was arrested and charged with manslaughter. However, they were released on a $20,000 bond with an ankle bracelet and are free to this day. What's more, they continue to post on TikTok and Instagram. Just a month after taking Helen's life, they began posting cosplay videos again. They never mentioned Helen in any of her videos, even though the reality of their death was public by then. Snow's own family found out about this from the news, not from Snow. Of course, Snow faced another wave of backlash from people saying they were disrespecting Helen and showing no remorse. However, Snow's attorney said they are extremely remorseful and traumatized by what had happened.
Man, I don't care if they're remorseful or not. They should have never let this girl out of jail. She killed a young lady. She took her own life. And the fact that she's not being held accountable to this day and they get to walk away free tells me everything I need to know about the system. It is very broken, bro. This girl is a red flag. Her and her crazy friends doing God knows what they got no business doing. And then on top of that, you murder someone because you're playing a stupid game. Nah, Mo, like, I don't. If I had a daughter, I think I would have to talk with her, have a serious talk about what's going on in life. Because I don't even want her with these type of people either. The fact that her attorney also is trying to say that she's remorseful. she's remorseful. You call that being remorseful after she took a life? The fact that you're gonna have her on house arrest, posting TikTok videos as if nothing has happened when she clearly took that person's life. Are you kidding me? This is one of the main reasons why this generation is so lost. Because when it comes to people telling them the truth, they get mad, they get offended, they call us misogynists, they call us every name of the book when they don't know the definition of the word. That's one thing. And then this from her attorney, have her walk away free without acting like it's nothing happened. It is so painfully obvious to me that this generation is doomed. We are doomed. We are screwed. And like I said, if I had a daughter that is like this, I'm going to have a serious talk with her. What is going on in this world?
No psychological counseling, and is struggling to cope with their actions. Snow's silence about Helen, to their family and online, is a sign that they're not ready to talk about this. But for others, it's a sign that they were a toxic, volatile person who sucked Helen into a dangerous life they would not have otherwise chosen. If convicted, Snow will face anywhere from 2 to 20 years in prison. To commemorate their life, Helen's friends campaigned to have Oberlin plant a pink dogwood tree on the lawn of Burton, the same color Helen had dyed their hair. In July 2023, Snow came back with a wave of cosplay posts after making their accounts private following the backlash.
Wow.
Have they moved on? Have they already forgotten Helen? Or is this their way of coping with taking their best friend's life? And will they...
Bro, this shit pisses me off so much because I hate the fact that these murderers get to walk away free without dealing with repercussions. How can you sleep at night when you and your ghetto friends playing a stupid game, doing cosplay, drugs and alcohol, and fooling around with a dangerous weapon that is not to be played with, and you take a person's life because you sucked her into it? How do you make this stuff up, people? YouTube, I'm telling you right now, there's gonna come a point in life where if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Now, I'm normally making some positive videos and all of that, but when it comes to stuff like this, I get very serious about it because there's a reason why I am not going to be independent, and this is one of them. It doesn't matter who you hang around with, who your friends are. If they have this type of mindset, get the crap away from them. This is not a joke, people. And I'm more upset about the justice system. The system is extremely broken. You allowed this heifer to walk away free, on house arrest, still making TikTok videos. And then they have the nerve to go on private in 2023. So we're just slapping murderers on the wrist. As a black man, I am beyond upset about this. Because this could be your daughter, your sister, your cousin, your nephew, your niece, anybody that hangs around with the wrong crowd. It's gonna end up having their lives taken away just like that, without ever to think about the consequences of their actions. And they get to walk away free. Are you kidding me? So my advice to everybody that has daughters, please talk to them. If you watch this video and watch what I have to say, please talk to your kids about this situation. Have them be aware of creeps and monsters like these people. If there's an update to this story, I hope to God that she's being brought to justice, that she faces up to 20 years to life. If I were the family, I would not stop fighting this case until they get justice, the right justice. Because I don't think being remorseful after you took a person's life is ever enough for a family to be okay with it. They want real justice. Give it to them.